Hi, Adrienne. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me, James.
Yeah, really looking forward to chatting to you today. So we're going to go straight into it with the first question, and that's what's important to you?
And what's important to me is for children and young people to believe in themselves. So that's really broad, I know, but it's kind of like so that they're given the same opportunities that I was given, so that they can learn tools to navigate their way through school, through college, and through life, really, to become better human beings, to get themselves ready to get to know those core skills, and just to be comfortable being themselves.
Mm. It's a common theme, and I must say when I talk to people about this whole thing of people being themselves. So, what was it about the fact that you wanted to work with young people and children regarding that perspective? You said it kind of like you wanted them to have the same opportunities that you did. So, what was the draw to working with children?
So I was a very shy child, believe it or
Okay.
not, and I went through a phase where I was stuck to my mother. I didn't want to go to school. And like I wasn't like 3 or 4, I was like 6 or 7. So, I'd already been at school.
Yeah.
So I went through this phase where I would cry after her every single day. I hated school. I couldn't understand why she kept sending me.
Right.
Because I was stuck to her and she was still sending me in. And she must have been distraught sending me, and I just didn't like it. And I don't recall having loads of friends, or, I thought I couldn't read. I was very conscious of myself, and just all those really uncomfortable kind of feelings I remember having. And I remember then my mother said to me one day, like, I used to wish that the bus would break down, or the pipes would burst in school and we wouldn't have to go in. And, then I'd see the boss coming up the hill. And like my whole world was like, people would start queuing up with their money for the bus, and I would be just like devastated every morning. So it was pretty traumatic looking back at
Yeah.
it. Um, and then what you call it, my mother said to me one day, she said, "You're going to speech and drama today." And I was like, "What's that?" She was like, "You like it, I liked it." And I did go to speech and drama, and it was elocution then, you would have done
Mm.
poetry and stuff. And I knew no one in the class, but I was social, as in like I would have talked. I just was shy in myself kind of thing. And I was able to read. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't as conscious. I wasn't as
Mm.
like worried. And I just blossomed complete. And it wasn't necessarily about acting. And the school that
Mm.
I went to, Corpus Christi and my Ross, was amazing. Like they gave us so much opportunity to write scripts and put on plays for the school. And just like there was a lot of freedom there to figure out
Mm.
who we were or where our interests were. And like it was obvious to everybody like that I loved the arts, and
Mm.
even before that, like I'd always play teachers. I'd have my stamper and my staple and all my pencils and my diary. And if you were watching, the way sometimes, like, if you want to know what your child is doing, if they're not telling you, because they're not great
Yeah.
at, if you say, "How was your day?" they'll probably go to you like,
Yeah.
"No."
Yeah.
But if you watch them, they'll tell you everything. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that's how that came about. Like, and then I got involved with Impact Theatre Company, and yeah, that was it really.
Yeah. It's really interesting to hear in some ways the fact that you said you were quite a shy child at that age, that six,
Yeah.
7 age. And in my head, it almost sounds counterintuitive to then go that you'd move towards the, speech and drama or that side of stuff.
Yeah.
But it almost then, because then that the whole sort of, there couldn't be more an obvious place of trial and error or try
Yeah.
and fail and learn or things going wrong and then you're having to do it again. So it's probably, so I don't know if that was the fact that there was that freedom, as you say, of creativity
Yeah.
allowed you to kind of to sort of, for want of a better word, get things wrong and then try again, or just doesn't matter. Was there even the concept of it doing it wrong? It was just the fact that you were just doing it.
Yeah, like I don't. like you've hit the nail on the head there with what drama is all about, with the trial and error. Like,
Yeah.
so we will talk about that definitely,
Yeah.
James. But I don't think I was conscious of it. All I know is that drama was the only time I was comfortable. I wasn't
Mm.
thinking.
Okay.
I was just able to like just be myself, and I wasn't
Yeah.
thinking, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Like in school, I always felt that I wasn't very clever. Like I liked English and stuff, like I liked those kind of subjects and history and stuff, but like I always felt like there was a right and a wrong way to do stuff. And you know, whereas like in drama, there wasn't any right or wrong. There was just like doing it, and it was playful, and you
Mm.
know, it was fun. You were with people, and there is a huge freedom in it. And like you said just there, James, with kind of the trial and error, that's the whole thing with drama. And
Mm.
you can see it with students that go to drama. So our, like, where I work is like a drama club, you know, that type of way where students come, but they get to look at like people, situations, you know, it could be like something that's bothering them in school, it could be starting school, it could be anything, but they're getting to like explore that in a safe, so they're kind of like getting to do it before it even happens.
Yeah.
So when it does, are navigating their way through school or the yard, it's very complicated for kids,
Mm.
like even though you wouldn't think it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think it's I think even in any situation, but I'd say for yourself now, because there is so much about young people. There's always a conversation about young people. And I
Yeah.
suppose though, considering that the situation that we have, one post-COVID, probably one of an interesting part to go down, but also then the the advent of connectivity in relation to technology as well,
Yeah.
and what that maybe the impact that's having on young people.
Mm.
I would say that what you're doing now, from your own experiences of growing up when you did it through your own childhood, and I'm sure into your young adult life, but doing it now, going back to working with children, is probably more important than ever for them to have this different outlet.
Yeah. I definitely think that you know, like you get kids now like really young going like, when am I getting my first phone?
Yeah,
When did you get your first phone out? I was 20.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And like, you know, or even like scrolling, and like they're way
yeah.
more advanced. So it's like, the thing is like when a child is online or they're watching something or whatever, like all their energy is pent up,
Mm,
because the people that are what, like that's where the fun is, you know, so they have all this energy, but that energy has to go somewhere. So it does, it can cause like a lot of, you know, the negative things, like, you know, as in the anxiety and that.
mm,
Whereas in drama, they might go in tired, or they might be wrecked, or like any activity, but they're doing it themselves. So they're
yeah.
using their energy, they're being creative, they're being, and like they're letting out like any worries or anything that they
Mm,
have. And there is a lot of like, there's a lot of gaming, a lot of phones and all of that. I think the best thing that we can do, I think, you know, as a parent, I was saying to you there, James, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I think the only way around it is to educate ourselves on
mm,
like, 'cause it's not going to go away,
yeah.
but it's just kind of how to manage it as well, you know. But like I'll be avoiding the phones as long as possible.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't doubt that, and I don't blame you. Yeah, no, but I think as you say though, it is about the sort of trying to be across the board and trying to manage the situation.
Yeah.
Because you say it's no point saying well, it's never going to happen, because it's the
No.
inevitability of it. We'll come back to that more in a bit. But what I would, before we go back into sort of what you're doing now. So when you going back to sort of that 6, 7-year-old that first went into sort of
Yeah.
that drama space, and you had that opportunity to do that, is it something that you carried on all the way through the rest of your childhood, teen years, all that sort of stuff? Was it something you were always involved in?
Yeah, like I kind of went through it until my teens, and then kind of I got distracted in my teens. And I tried out different things. And even when I finished school, I finished out a few things. I tried a few things, like I went traveling, and I went off studying engineering like a lunatic. I don't know what I was thinking. But I always felt, you know, it came to a stage where I was like, you know, everyone around me was saying, like, you know, you should be so happy you have your own house, your own car. And I was like, this is like, why do I feel like something is missing? You know, and
Mm,
that's the only way I can kind of describe it. And I remember kind of sitting down, going, because I had a great job and, you know, that kind of way. And I was like, what is wrong? And I had to go on like a bit of a self-discovery and remember that the only time that I ever felt really myself was when I did the arts. So then I had to
mm,
go back and read, you know, so I chased down Pat Burke, who's the artistic director of Impact Theatre. He's in Limerick, and I was like, I have to be part of this group, like, you know. And so I got involved that way, and that's how then I came across the teaching, because I'd done my speech and drama exams and I met the best people. And like, I knew then that, you know, when you're not trying
mm,
and you're just like experiencing,
mm.
and that's what it was like, you know. And then I went back to college and did my HDip, and then I did my master's. And you know, the more I learned, the less I knew, but it was it was one of the best times of my life, though,
Mm.
you know. And then I started acting. I remember getting a part in 𝘼𝙙𝙧𝙘𝙀, and there was so much excitement at home. My
No.
mother was over. She told everybody. And like, like the first play I saw with him, there was different moments for me, you know, that type of way.
Yeah.
But one of the first plays I had seen with Impact Theatre, and they were ahead of what was being done, you know, like
Mm.
most people at the time. I mean, we see loads now where the fourth wall isn't there in
Yeah.
theatre, but they did it way before. They were doing Ibsen and Chekhov, and before it was you know, a thing or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
where the audience were right beside the actor and stuff, you know. It was really it was incredible.
Yeah.
But I remember the very first play I went to see was at Magnum Hopeless, and I loved it. And then the following year, like about 8 months later, they brought it back and I was in it. And like, that
Wow.
was like, and I still have the note that the director wrote for me, like, you know. And that kind of inspires me, you know.
Yeah.
I think he said, you know, he didn't get a choice to have me in the play, because Pat Burke had said, like, yeah, you can have a part, Adrienne. And then Chris was the director. So he got
Hilarious.
landed with me in a way.
Yeah.
But he was like, I couldn't have asked for more, basically. It was a lovely
Yeah.
message. I've kept it all. So like, I've moved to tons of places at this stage, but it's one that's always with me.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's no, it's fabulous stories. And I love the fact that you shared, and I think this is really important for people to hear as well, is the fact that, like, so many people, including myself and so many of the people I've spoken to, is the whatever cliche of the journey of our careers or
Yeah.
journey of our lives is never linear.
No.
There's always backs and stops and full stops and come back and go back again.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, what threw me there, the fact that you said you studied engineering, and you know, considering what you do now, you know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
you know, and what was the, you know, it's trying to think, it's so hard to think back now as a sort of whatever 18, 19-year-old. Can you remember what the thought process was when you're thinking, oh, I'll go to do engineering?
I think at the time I probably had a chip on my shoulder. I was like, girls can do anything that boys can do. So it wasn't
Right.
necessarily, and it was very mathematical, you know. And
Yeah.
I did like maths. I had a very good teacher, but I wasn't that way
Yeah.
inclined. Like, my mind didn't work like that, you know.
Sure.
So that became obvious very quickly that, you know, it wasn't for me. And I got
Yeah.
on well in that, but like, I knew I wasn't going to have a career in it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But you know, the way I was talking there about Pat Burke, the artistic director, he was so generous, James, because,
Mm.
you know, I had no training, no formal
Mm.
training, and he just saw someone that was very enthusiastic.
Yeah.
I would work hard, and he gave me a chance, and it's something that always stayed with me, and there is Niamh and Eileen who are still really good friends of mine, but like, and they would have had more background, I suppose, than me, but like they really took me under their wing as well. So, and I always remember that kind of kindness, because it
Yeah.
doesn't cost anything, like, and
Yeah.
even when I see kids now, I feel like I understand them because I've probably been all of the children
Yeah.
at different
Yeah.
stages, and I feel that I can really relate to kind of wherever they're at, that
Yeah.
kind of way. And it's easy to show kindness, James.
Yeah. 100%. But even then as well, just that sort of little story there of engaging back in with Pat, as you say, and as you
Yeah,
say, kind of almost speaks of the world that you're trying to get into. That again, that phrase of trial and error, or just
yeah,
the idea of, well, actually, when you realize, you know what, you didn't even say I want to be. It's like I need to be in this
yeah,
world, industry, whatever you call it. I need to be in
yeah,
it. And as you say, at that point, you hadn't had the sort of, you said, of the formal training, but you were willing to just go into it in
yeah,
whatever guise it needed to be. And I think that's a big lesson for anyone as well. If you're kind of in a place or in a world where you kind of think, actually, this isn't for me. I've made the wrong
yeah,
decision, or I've gone down the path that I didn't think I was going to be. You can go into the other place. You
yeah,
might not necessarily have everything you think you need, but it's just a case of getting involved in it.
yeah,
That's a huge, because it's one of those things. If you didn't decide, well, actually, I just need to get involved and I'll do anything type thing,
yeah,
the sort of sliding doors moments and then the momentum that
yeah,
you gain from being involved in it must have been
yeah.
huge.
Yeah, see, I had so I had done a panto with my friend. That was the first. She arrived onto my doorstep. You're reminding me of like some of the best memories I have. But we were trying to figure out, we were trying to come up with a plan how I could get into the arts. And she arrived one day on my doorstep. She said, I opened the door and she went, I've got a great plan. We'll do poetry night. Look, and I said, you're meant to write your own poem. She said, I wrote this. You read that and I'll read this. So we were coming up with plans all the time. And then shortly after that, she arrived another day. She went, we're going for an audition for the panto. So off we went for the panto for 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, whatever. But sure, it was just party central for us. And
Yeah.
after that, I did a musical. The musical was great, but I knew it wasn't what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So it took me ages to find Impact
Yes.
Theatre. It was Miles Breen had told me about Impact Theatre, and I did chase them, James, and then one day Pat rang me back and it was lashing raining, and I walked up O'Connell Street and I was drenched by the time I arrived, but it was worth it.
So tell me more about, because I say I wouldn't be as familiar in that way. So tell me more about what Impact Theatre. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, well, Pat was there was a core group there and they were very cool. But like, it was a tiny little space in a basement on O'Connell Avenue, and they just reimagined it every time they did a play. It was quite incredible looking back on
Yeah.
it, but Pat was so talented. So the thing I liked about Impact Theatre was you could be working on the door, or you could be like the main star in the show. You could be taking the tickets, and so you could be doing anything. But that's all
Yeah.
really good training
Yeah.
for, like what makes up like theatre. So you're learning firsthand the lights, the sound, and there was mad moments with that as well, but it was fantastic. For like, I've never experienced anything like that again.
Mm.
It was, the way sometimes you have like, you never realize when you're living in the moment that that's actually going to be such a special memory for you,
Mm.
in a way,
Yeah.
kind of way, like. So, but that's one of those moments. I didn't think I'd end up talking about all this, James.
Yeah.
Delighted to remember them though.
Yeah. So no, but that's what because I can. The thing is, though, is like what's lovely, and obviously for myself, you can just see it in yourself, like when you're
Yeah,
thinking of those stories, the sort of how much it brings back to you, which is brilliant.
yeah.
So where does then the sort of getting involved in the arts, was it something that was that the intention initially? You wanted to be involved in senses you wanted to be performing, or was that sort of the teaching always in the back of your mind, or did that come later?
I think that there was a part of me that would have liked to have been a classroom teacher, which I'm glad now that I'm not.
Yeah.
But there was a time, because I always, like, as I was saying to you, you know, even when I was a child,
Mm.
that was something that I did like, but I wasn't very good at 𝘼𝙙𝙧𝙤𝙘.
Okay.
So that kind of put me off of that a little bit. So the love was still there. So I had toys with it a few times, definitely, but I loved performing. I loved
Mm.
acting. And that led on to writing. And, you know, I started getting jobs in Dublin. That's how I moved to Dublin. I kept getting work. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, the way you have a dream. You're like, I have a dream. So I was like, that's it. I'm moving to Dublin. You know, I decided kind of overnight, that's it. I'm off to Dublin. See
yeah,
you. And I kept getting work, and I actually couldn't believe it. Like, you know, I just couldn't believe that, you know, I'd set out, like I
yeah,
said, vision boards and all that, you
yeah,
know, big
yeah,
into all that. And I just couldn't kind of believe it. But I was teaching before that. I went back teaching when I was involved in Impact Theatre Company, because Eileen and Niamh were two of my best buddies. So they were teaching. So they had kind of taken me under their wing. I had my speech and drama exams. And
yeah,
I was kind of going like, I wouldn't mind finishing those exams. You know,
yeah,
they're always going to stand you, whether you're working as an actor or whatever.
yeah.
So I started doing that, and then I covered classes for them. And, you know, I was like, I like this. This is
Mm.
nice. Like, I like this. And that love went deeper as well, the more I did it. Yeah, so I kind of lost my train of thought there. I'm talking
No,
way too much, James.
no, not at all. So no, absolutely, because it's one thing to go back into, say, obviously one thing in a sense of that world of performing and that, and then one going into teaching. It's another leap then to, as you say, not do it in the traditional, you know, do your sort of whatever teacher
Yeah,
qualification and be a drama teacher under the, you know, the curriculum, under the standard
yeah,
school. There's that sort of avenue where you can do it,
yeah,
but you decided to do it on a, you know, teaching in a from in
yeah,
your own perspective. So there's a bit of a leap to go from I'm going to be a teacher to I'm going to do my own, you know,
yeah.
essentially school. So where did that idea, in a sense of doing it essentially your own school, come about?
The funny thing is, I did have that first inkling in Limerick before I ever moved.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I thought, oh no,
Mm.
I'm gonna work as an actor.
Yep.
So then I went and did that, and my mother ended up getting sick, which kind of stopped me in my tracks. But that's how I went and did my master's degree. They used to slag me at home, like because I needed to not think about her being sick.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a really good qualification, but it was to keep me out of my head. You know, that
Right.
kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was to kind of like just keep me kind of going, like, you know, because otherwise it would not have been good, you know.
Mm.
So yeah, I worked on a camp, and there was 70 kids, and there was one, two, three, I think three teachers and two assistants. And like, the kids were looked after, the kids were nice, but I didn't feel that the teachers really cared.
Okay.
You know, now they were all top of their
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
but I just kind of thought to myself, like, you don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You don't care. So I got into my car at the end of that week, and I said, I'm going to do my own camp next year.
Okay.
Yeah. And I booked 4 places and ran 4 camps. I
Wow.
said, that's it. And I knew nothing about marketing. I knew nothing
Yeah.
about anything. I just thought, like, sure, I'll just have my flyers and I'll go and
Yeah.
hand them
Yeah.
out. And I'd had, like, people did know me because I was working in schools, you know, that type of voice.
Yep.
And I didn't know that you're meant to market, you know, like,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, but I'd just be outside the school gates. So that's how I kind of started that.
So
And then I ended up finding out that, you know, different venues, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I can do this. So it was all very slow, and,
yeah.
you know, but I knew that because at that stage I had worked in a lot of theatre schools,
Mm.
performing schools, and I knew that I could do a better job myself,
Yeah.
you know, just from the drama perspective. Like, I knew that, and maybe that was that, like, the heart behind it, or something. Like I can't really put my finger on it, but even when I'm like getting other teachers to work with me, like it can be hard to find people that share your values, because
Yeah.
I know a job is just a job, but like it's so much more when you're looking after someone's child and you want to bring out their potential and encourage them, So yeah, I'm probably very fussy that way, all right.
Mm. No, but 100% I can understand why, because of, and this comes back to say with the start of it, in sense of compared to say those first experiences you had of like being a member of the team, should we say, at the summer camp, when you're
Yeah.
kind of, and
Yeah.
you're going, so they're seeing, from what I'm hearing, the people that you're saying, they were good teachers, but they were seeing it as a job for the summer. It was they
Yeah.
were earning a few quid,
Yeah.
keeping the kids occupied, that sort
Yeah.
of approach.
Yeah.
Whereas your perspective was, and what you said earlier, in a sense of asking a question, it's like, no, this means so much more. There's a
Yeah.
purpose behind this.
Yeah.
And when you, as you say, when you then put your own name on it, and you wanted to stand over at the standard and the level that you want, but not just since the standard of level of teaching, um from where I'm hearing is like you want these kids to have an experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It's different to being taught how to do
Yeah.
drama,
Yeah, exactly.
in my head anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's so much different. Exactly. It is an experience. And then if they did want to go on and study the
Mm,
arts or go for auditions or whatever, they have all the basis there.
yeah,
But that's not like, it's not about the product of like
yeah,
learning how to do an audition. Like it's a whole thing. Yeah.
yeah. And I'd say, going back to the story when you say when you first had the idea, because more out of, well, I'll do it myself versus going
Yeah.
back to them, and that sort of the way you were explaining it there, in a sense of like marketing and stuff, in the sense of almost
Yeah.
that naivety in some ways, the way you're explaining it.
Totally.
Yeah, but in some ways though, the fact that you kind of like, well, I'll just print a flyer and hand them out, in some ways, the fact that you kind of just did it,
Yeah.
and is it, because sometimes it's like, if you kind of got, I think a lot of people can now, because it's everywhere, if you're thinking of starting up anything, whether it be
Yeah.
any sort of small business or any sort of idea, you can get so caught up in the, oh, this is the marketing thing, this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
You just went out and did it.
Yeah.
And how, for that first time you did those camps yourself, how did they go? I'm interested to know.
Yes, yeah, I've got good friends that are very good at drama.
Yeah,
Like they're in the arts and they've got
yeah,
heart. So I remember getting 4 t-shirts printed going out to Dún Laoghaire, and got Des to do it and my friends with me. And I think I paid them with lunch or something.
yeah,
And we flyered. So it was kind of like that way,
yeah,
And then, it was my own. I always had the idea that the camps would be an experience as well,
yeah,
where like, it's child development is at the core of it,
yeah,
and like drama and theatre, which I love. So, the structure of the camp, our classes, they're two different things, but like the structure of them stays the same.
yep,
We would meet the group rather than saying like we're definitely doing a theme on superheroes, just pretend.
yeah, yeah,
Like we'd meet the students and we'd see then where it's at, and then we would decide where they want to go. So it's a different approach, but it's more authentic and it's better
yeah,
for the children because everything is coming from them, because they have all this stuff already. I'm
yeah,
always like this, like when I'm with the kids asking them, because they come
yeah,
up with so much stuff that you just wouldn't think of yourself, and so I kind of like working like that. So when I had my friends, I was like, pay them well because they're worth it, and keep the camps really small. And the camps are still small, but they're like 30 is kind of the
yeah,
max,
yeah,
but then there's 3 teachers, 2 assistants. So like they're really well
yes, yeah,
managed and stuff. And that's why they're so good.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know?
That's interesting. So just what you just said there. So when the kids are coming into one of those classes or camps,
Yeah.
you don't have necessarily a set agenda. You're kind
No.
of going, we've got them for so many, whatever,
5
hours or
days. Yeah.
5 days. Yeah, exactly. The number of days. So whatever the sort of performing or whatever you're going to do
Yeah.
comes organically from the
Yeah.
group that you're with. Now that's really interesting.
Yeah. Like we would do, so we would do free play.
Okay.
Kids love free play, but it's really important, and they can
Yeah.
tell you so much
Yeah.
by just watching them, like what they go towards, who they go towards. So we use stuff like that, and then we would do very soft ensemble kind of exercises. So nobody is, so it's all like low focus,
Yeah.
and make sure that everybody gets to work with everybody
Yeah.
and mix it around. And like they love stuff. You kill yourself with kids. This is the thing, like
Yeah.
you kill yourself with kids. And then if you said to them, what's your favorite thing? I love the quiz. You're like, seriously, I'm
Yeah.
actually bending over backwards. So like it's funny the stuff that they veer towards, but it's a nice way to work because
Yeah.
they feel listened to, they're empowered,
Yes.
and
Yes.
like they get to, like, we know we're going to do a day of art
Yeah.
and we're going to destroy everything's going to be wrecked. Like we know that we're going to do different days,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's a nice way to work. I prefer it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. But because now again it makes sense in the sense of where you're trying to come from too. As you say, one of the things is to empower these children.
Yeah.
So there's no better way of empowering children or empowering anyone than allowing them to put their perspective, opinions, thoughts,
Yeah.
process, or whatever into what you're doing. But
Yeah.
it shows as well, though, then your ability then to improvise
Yeah.
and adapt yourself. And is that something that you've got better at as you've
Yeah.
progressed and got through the camps and things like that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, like I know when I first started teaching, I'd have to have everything written out, whereas now I'd be able to do kind of shorthand and I'd be able to improvise. The secret is having your structure.
Yeah.
So once you have that, the rest, like once like if I went into one of my classes now, the students would just sit in a circle. There wouldn't be chaos because they would know
Yeah.
to come in and to sit into a circle. They'd know, like, throughout the hour, we'll say, class, that they'd go back to the circle, or so you set yourself up, and once you're set up, then you can kind of hang anything
Yeah.
into it,
Okay.
that type of way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
but like it didn't start like that, no.
No. No. Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
not.
Took
Yeah.
the time to build up. So
Yeah.
so how did you go from them camps to the school that you have now? So when it moved on from just doing summer camps to doing it as an actual school, what was that transition?
I think it was having a baby.
Right.
I think that's what happened, to be honest. Like I did freelance, but it was probably more freelance than a school, even though, like, so I had a class that I ran in Dublin 8 and one in Dunleary, and then I had the camps. But like, and I worked in one or two schools, but like it was more like I would have seen myself more as freelancing than even a business, even though I did use PlayAct, but I don't think it really became a business until I had Hazel. And
Right.
then I was like, oh my God, like, how am I going to like manage this? But I have to say I'm blessed with the people I attract into my life, because I always have like a really good team. I don't know how I do. It's like it does take a bit of work. Like
Yeah.
that's a job on its own as well,
Yeah.
to get a team. But at the time I had Alicia and Karen, they were fantastic girls. Like they loved what they did. It's so much heart. So they kind of took on the classes, we'll say.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, so they were all looked after, we'll say. But then COVID happened.
Yep.
I was kind of like, oh my God, like, how do you, like, because I'd fly her outside schools,
Yeah.
it was like, how do you do this? That's when PlayActs kind of, I think, really did become a business. I think, I think
Yeah.
it was kind of a gradual thing,
Yeah.
like where people would start contacting me where I wouldn't have advertised, or
Yes.
that kind of, and I think it's being consistent
Yeah.
and doing what you say you're going to do,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So it was very gradual, I
Yeah.
think, because even before COVID, like, I don't know if I ever met a profit, James.
Yeah.
because Like I just didn't know how to, like, I'm a drama teacher, like a drama
Yeah,
facilitator, really. Like give
yeah,
me a story to write or give me a
yeah,
play to write, or like I can cover any class, you know. But like
yeah,
I just didn't get the, like obviously I paid my taxes and all that, but I just didn't have a clue how to do anything. Whereas like when COVID happened, I did have to really look at it. And
yeah.
you know what I loved about my team, James? This was another moment was I remember, you know, that I was only after having a baby, another baby like Heidi. And I remember meeting my friend the day before in Drum. She was like, "Have you got masks?" I was like, "For what?" She was like, this virus that's coming. I said, "I'm only after having a baby. I can't be thinking about masks." And the next day, the schools were all
Well,
closed.
shut.
And like I was like, okay, so the schools are closed. So I got on to and it was my first time selling out the Easter camp with like, and so that happened in like the 11th of March, I think, and
That's right.
April is like Easter, and it was
Yeah.
sold out. And some parents were panicking, like looking for their
Mm.
money. And I was like, "Don't worry, like you can have your money, you know."
Yeah.
But then my more regular parents, I said to them, "Should we be online for 2 weeks? It'll be grand. We don't know how to use Zoom. You thought we'll learn together." And sure, 2 years later, we were all still on Zoom.
Yeah.
And I learned, we all learned so much. But the thing I wanted to tell you was, so after the initial shock of that happening, I held a meeting with my team, and I think there was like 5 of us all together. And I said, "I'm going to go online, lads, with our classes. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we have to support our families. How are ye feeling? Like, what do ye think?" And I remember Karen coming on, and she said, "I can't stop thinking about the students. They must be so frightened. We have to be there for them." So that was the decision.
Mm.
You know, it wasn't about like money, or it wasn't about, it was
Yeah.
like, how do we keep a roof over our heads? We all had bills. We
Yeah.
all had to, we were like, how can we keep a roof over our heads? How can we support our families? Like, what are they going through? And like, you know,
Mm.
as a part of that, then I got in touch with loads of primary school teachers and secondary school teachers to see like where they needed support so that I could support my own, our own
Mm.
students. So it was a huge learning curve.
Mm.
Like before that, I couldn't even use Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then I think PlayAct really became like
Yeah.
kind of a business, because I wasn't able to be at the school gate. I wasn't
Yes.
able to do the same thing. And then like I had to start thinking about, because, you know, in a Zoom class, you could have 8,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
You know, the teachers had to be paid because they'd always worked so
Yeah.
hard. So it was kind of like, how do I do this? And I had 2 young kids, so I really had to try to manage the business and see like,
Mm.
how can everyone get properly looked after, you know? And it was a team effort. I definitely wouldn't have been able to do it without the girls. They were amazing.
Yeah. No, it's incredible again, and then again, it's just because of the times as well, like the amount of stories and things that have come out because of COVID, as awful as it and as challenging as it was. But there's a couple of things from that story. What you shared there was when you're put in a situation where you have to do something, it
Yeah.
forces you to do something, and it makes you. And so many people, I think, when they were going through the pandemic, were having to reevaluate things or assess things, or
Yeah.
actually, well, actually now I forced into doing things and doing, so it made you kind of think of things in a different way. But what the other thing there that was really, I thought, was powerful, what you said was one of your team there saying was like, but what about the students,
Yeah.
you know? And that just shows then the as you one said, you the team that you had sort of created, you had
Yeah.
the right people in the
Yeah.
space, because and that's when, you know, with the bit was part of it, maybe you thought, I don't know if you thought that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you thought, oh, this could be successful, because when
Yeah.
they've got that much enthusiasm or need or want to do it for the other person, in this case
Yeah.
was the student, that's a real powerful thing to lead on. You know what I mean? It's not about,
Yeah.
oh, we've got to make this much money or that much.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's about the person that you're trying to serve. In that
Yeah.
case was children.
I think that we we all supported each other.
Yeah.
We lived quite close to each other, and I think that we all, like, for example, Karen, and she wouldn't mind me saying this, she's in Florida. So she ended up teaching our online classes from Florida.
Wow. Yeah.
She said to me, "Do you mind if I still teach when I go back to Florida?" I was like, "Oh my God, I would never have thought of that." So our minds were opened as well.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so, like, and as people, like, like one of them suffered very bad anxiety. So we were like kind of little family as well,
Mm.
that were able to, like, support each other through it. But I think when we were going through it, I don't know if we were, I definitely wasn't aware of like how successful PlayAct was going to be. It was
Yeah.
only, I remember a woman that I had done mentoring with, she was like, "Parents will remember you. They're going to
Mm.
remember you." And I remember thinking at the time, should be great if they remembered me, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It would be
Yeah.
great, like, wouldn't it? But she was right,
Yeah.
because we went through all of it with them. And like our students, as a result, they did their speech and drama exams online. They
Wow.
did their shows online.
Yeah.
Like, they did their classes online. And you could see the difference with them because they came through all of that
Mm.
online, because it was a space for them. And I know there was like a lot of school stuff online and it got tired.
Mm.
Like we were saying, we got tired.
Mm.
Whereas the drama, they came on and they could talk about what was going on for them. They could write about it, they could act it out. So there was a huge freedom
Mm.
in that. And we had customers from like Sweden and
Wow.
China.
Wow.
Yeah, so we got like, it was kind of like it was kind of a bit crazy, like, to be honest,
Yeah.
like, the world became kind of small in a way.
Very much so.
So it was great. It was a great learning. I know it was hard as well, and I couldn't have done any of it if I didn't have the support of my husband as well,
Sure.
looking after the kids.
But I think, and again, it come the sort of running theme, and it's not surprising, but obviously when we've been talking, is even going back to your own experiences as a child again, and then to the
Yeah,
students you're working with now, is that opportunity to openly express yourself
yeah,
without the judgment.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Whatever, and whatever there be sort of the online, and because I'm sure there would have been the previous, a prior pre-COVID, the perspective of someone saying, "Oh, there's no way you could teach drama or the arts online. You need to be with
yeah,
and all these sorts of things. Or you need to be with the person. You need to feel
yeah,
them, and all this sort of stuff."
yeah,
Because like when you're forced into a situation, because in
yeah.
the end, people still want to be able to express themselves.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And you could tell the difference as well
Mm.
after COVID with who did go through it.
I
And
was
some
going to say
parents,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and some parents you couldn't talk them around and you wouldn't want to either.
Yeah.
You'd just be like, "Look, give it a lash. If she doesn't
Yeah.
like it, she doesn't like it," kind of thing,
Yeah.
because you don't want to be pushing it on anyone.
Sure.
Everyone had their own stresses, but you could tell the difference, definitely. And
Mm.
even now, because our classes start at 3.5, and you can actually tell even at that age that they've had that support of
Yeah.
being able to go to a class like a drama class where they
Yeah.
get to, like, talk about like meeting their new friends, or their
Yeah.
teacher, or you can actually tell the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. Well, because this is when I talk to anyone who works with children and young people, I'm really interested because they say like I have nieces, I have a nephew, but they're all in the UK. So it's not like I don't have any children myself at the moment. So it's like I'm not surrounded with young people. So
Yeah,
my sort of knowledge of is just what we would hear in the news and things like that.
yeah,
And obviously it's kind of a cliche in a sense of young people as always in the news and the next
yeah,
generation. But especially through COVID and that experience for a lot of young people. And then we spoke about the sort of the technology that we have and the sort of the higher levels of potential anxiety amongst young people. So I'd really like to know, because again, the student is the heart of what you do. It's to
yeah.
empower those children. What's your experience with young people now, for the length of time you've been working with them, in a sense of that sort of levels of things like whether it be anxiety or mental health? Is it something you're seeing more of, or is it something that you're able to help with? I just love to know your experiences of it.
Definitely straight. It depends. like there was one school that we worked in, and the anxiety was really high. And that's why they got in someone that knew about child development.
Mm.
And you could see the difference. Like, that's the thing, like, it's amazing that the students would come in, they do like their 50-minute class, and like afterwards they'd be more invigorated, more engaged, more energized, more willing to be part of the team in school, and more alert. So I don't know why they don't just do this in every school, to
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
curriculum, like
Yeah.
why aren't they making funds available? It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, our children are going to be like the people growing up making our society. Like, why aren't they pumping money into that? They should be.
Mm.
So like after COVID we did see a bit, but I have to say, like, because the students that are with us a while as well, there isn't
Yeah.
the same amounts of anxiety at all,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
But
Yeah,
and is it, am I to, because I keep thinking as you're telling me, and I have to make sure
yeah,
I want to interpret it right, because I suppose there's an element, as you say, where you're obviously that it's a to try and it's a, you know, it's a play act about using the arts and drama,
yeah,
but it's not necessarily to try and, am I right in thinking it's not necessarily to steer people into that world as a,
yeah,
they're going to become an actor or they're going to
yeah,
become into that. It's, as you say, the word that you used there a couple of times, the whole thing of child development. It's a way of them being able to grow and develop, whether they even stay in the arts or not. It's
yeah,
that moment in time where it can actually just, as you say, bring them out of their shell that little bit more.
yeah, exactly. So they'll get all the skills that they would get if they want to,
Yeah.
like, audition, or like if
Yeah.
we do the productions, we do this, you know, the speech and drama, all of that. But it's more about giving the child the space to
Yeah.
explore the whole of their personality,
Yeah.
to explore their world, the people in it, you know, using stories and rhymes and stuff that they're familiar with, you know, and just to give them the tools as well to, you know, to navigate their way through. It can be quite hard, like, you know, to ask to join in a game. I don't remember that myself as a child, to be honest. Now maybe it's because I was always in drama, you know,
Yeah.
that it just never came up for me. But some children, it's hard for them to ask if they can play, if they can join in, if they can. It's
Yeah.
hard to put your hand up in the classroom, you know. So there's all different things, you know, there's all the different rules, so they have a lot to kind of process.
Mm.
Drama is like, you know, it's so powerful as a
Mm.
learning tool, you know,
Mm.
even to support any part of the curriculum. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you can do so much with it,
Yeah.
and that's why it's on the curriculum as well.
Yeah.
It's just not
Yeah.
used.
Yeah, no, it is. It's 100%. And again, it's like that in my own thinking here now, because again, sort of my sort of what I do now is obviously I do a lot of talking to people on the show. With a coach, I'm constantly asking questions. It's all about communication. And in my previous sort of roles and job was always in customer service and talking
Mm,
and engaging people, you know, whether it be a member of the public or it could be a salesperson, anything, you
yeah.
know, anyone. And the again with the sort of changing technology, you know, the fact that you can go throughout your day and not talk to anyone because you can just do it all on your phone if you needed to, or you know, you don't.
Yeah.
So the use of what you're doing and the sort of the benefits, should I say, not use, the benefits of what you're doing for these young people is like, I really do think in the next 10 years or so, how you communicate is going to become much more of an important skill
Mm,
than anything else, because there'll be a leveling up of people who know about tech because they'll all have grown up with it in some ways. That,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? So the differentiation between people is how you're able to communicate, how you're able to engage, regardless of what industry, world, or whatever you want to do, because it's going to be the thing that's going to be most important is how you, as you say, how you put your hand up, how
Yeah.
you, like that across the board is like, because I'm sure you've experienced this in like asking for help,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether it be in the what you're doing as a, you know, your team
Mhm.
members to help with a class, but if, as a business owner,
Mm,
having the sort of to go out of yourself and go, actually, I do not know this. I know
mm,
someone who does. They don't know me. I'm going to ask them
yeah.
for help. It's a
Yeah.
massive thing. So to instill that confidence in someone at such a young
Mm.
age it can only be beneficial to them.
No, definitely. And, you know, they don't tell you a whole pile. You know, they get an opportunity, like, you know, to share, you know, a
Yeah.
piece of news or something. It just gives them a chance to arrive. But like sometimes they'll tell you something like very small. Like one little girl had said, she's only 4 and they give out awards every Friday, and she was telling me how disappointed she was, which would have been a really big thing for her to share. But the positive thing is she was able to say it, and she probably didn't think about it again because
Yes.
she said it, it was
Yeah.
done.
Done.
You know,
Yeah.
that kind of way. Like, so it is really important for to give them the space to talk, to say, because
Yeah.
and drama as well, like you'd say things in a drama class that you might not have the opportunity to otherwise
Yep.
in your life, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. And just to, I'm just because I'm curious now as well in relation to the Play Act. What are the age ranges of children or whatever you work with? What are the sort of the scope that
Yeah,
the kids that you work with?
3.5 to 18.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so like the child, you know, the learning changes as it goes on,
yeah,
you know, but
yeah,
yeah, they're a lovely age. It's a nice
yeah,
nice scope there.
yeah. And you then obviously you said you've had students that have obviously gone through those various different age
Yeah.
brackets and returned and continue on with the school yourself.
Yeah, and some of them come back and work as assistants as well,
Yeah,
on the camps, which is really nice for them,
y-
you know, to come
yeah,
back and use their own skills, and to talk, because there was big talk last week about the acting exams, you know, and our student Saif was telling them all about her experience, which is it's really nice for them to be able
yeah,
to do that, and they've come back through transition year and worked
yeah,
as well, and so it's really nice. Yeah,
yeah.
I like that. I like to give them space as well, so
Yes.
that they can take on responsibility and, you know, with their parent, like, you
Yeah.
know, but that they can take on responsibility and use it, and get paid as well in something
Yeah.
that they like, you know. So
Yeah.
it's really good.
Yeah. No, that's well, it's fabulous in a sense of like the fact that you do that sort of that age range as well. Because you say that now you have the people have there's two sides of it, I suppose. There's the opportunity for those students to be able to continue doing it for that length of time and then do it afterwards once they've sort of reached the
Mm.
age. But also, you know, from a business perspective as well, you know, that you know, it's because there is an element to it to say if you've got that headspace on of like that is a business, this is a business, I want it to be sustainable.
Mm.
Obviously it would make sense that you want these people to come back as well, so it kind of then brings it back to the full circle of like, well, they have to have a good experience
Yeah.
for it all to work,
Yeah.
for the continuity of those people to return, for them to get out what you're trying to do for them to help
Yeah.
empower them, but then it to be also to be a successful business as well. It all
Yeah.
comes back down to how they experience it.
Yeah, like I've learned the hard way, like there's different elements to all of that, and one piece of the puzzle is recruitment.
Mm,
Like you have to keep your finger on the pulse there, because you will find the people, but it does take a lot of time. But now I know exactly what I want the teacher to like. I want them to have their own personality and their own creativity, because, you know, that's really important to them as well,
yeah,
and someone did that for me. But I want them to know, like, you know, what's expected of them, and, you know, how
yeah,
to present themselves, and, you know, the structure and the, you know, how to engage in a school or whatever. So that's really important as well, that they know that they're representing Play Act Drama School when they go out, or if they're representing Play Act camps, or, you know, and um yeah, like I suppose that's probably why it's strong as well, you know, is
mm,
because team members, you know, and
yeah,
they're able to give the child, they know that the child is the backbone
yeah.
of everything, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I think you said it earlier in one of the things when you're talking about the school itself as well as like, and again, and you said about to try and they're representing school, but you said it one of the words you said earlier was the values that you're
Yeah.
trying to. So is that when you're like looking for someone in a team member now,
Yeah.
you know, one is it maybe you're looking for qualifications or you know that they can do that, but is it are you
Yeah.
looking that they demonstrate those values as well?
Yeah, like it's kind of a mixture. Like
Mm,
sometimes you can get people that have all the qualifications and
yeah,
they're just not good at working with kids. And
yeah,
then sometimes you can get people that are really good with kids and have no
yeah,
qualifications. So it's sometimes when they have qualifications, it just means that they're more committed to
yeah,
that area. So generally with us, there is qualifications, whether it's
yeah,
drama, theatre, drama in education or whatever, just because it means that they know kind of,
yeah,
they have a bit more background. And then like after, so I do a Zoom interview, then I meet them in person. Then I'll invite them in to do like a half-hour activity. But like it's insane that one of our really great teachers, I remember her doing her 30 minutes. I was like, she's okay. I'm sure she's a knockout
yeah, yeah, yeah,
completely.
yeah,
She's amazing. I was like, how did I? So
yeah,
like you can do all the
yeah,
stuff. You will find it like the thing that I suppose is if someone wants to work, like, we were all told when we were growing up, you work no matter what you work at, you work hard
yep,
and you want to work. So, like, to me, that would be something that I would spot pretty straight away. Like,
yeah,
that someone is like, yeah, I'm up for it.
yeah.
Like, none of us like flyering now at this point. Like, we're kind of like on top of everything. Do we have to flyer? But like, you want someone that's joining your team going, yeah, I'll flyer,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
yeah, the
Yeah.
100%. No, because you reminded me of a conversation I was having with another lady the other day, and this isn't supposed to be a poor me story, but it might come out that way. But so when I first the job that when I first moved out to Ireland, I got a temporary contract with one of the banks. So I
Yeah.
just needed a job. I was just not long out of university,
Yeah.
needed to get a job. And the job that I had, this is going back to 2005. This is the time of when all the big companies were transitioning from paper to online.
Okay. Yeah.
People don't
Wow.
know that now. Everything is on a
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when I joined the company, everything was in a file, like literally a paper file, and you go to a cabinet, you put it out, and you print it off, and you put it back. So my first job was they were transitioning over from this paper base to an online base, was to every day take a stack of files, go through them, remove paper clips, pins, photocopy everything to an A4 size so it could go through this sort of scanning. And I
Yeah.
did that for 9 months.
Yeah.
Thousands, literally. Here's another group, go bash them, put them through.
Yeah.
Go bash them, put them through. I did that 9 days for 9 months every day of just taking out
Yeah.
staples and photocopying stuff. But it was kind of like, well, I was grateful I had the job. I needed a job. I was looking to get at my own place and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, if I'm going to be pulling staples out of paper, I'm going to be the best staple puller that can be out of,
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
have to just adapt and shift that mindset and
Yeah.
go, well, this is what's in front of me right now. I'm going to
Yeah.
make the very best of the situation. I ended up staying in that company for 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So before I decided to move on. So, and I worked in various different departments. I was, got various different promotions and all this sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and created a career in that company. So there's the element is what you're saying with that recruitment. It
Yeah.
reminded me of the story is like someone's willingness. There's a
Yeah.
level of standard you want, but there's also just that willingness to get stuck in.
Yeah. It's getting stuck in. That's a
Yeah,
big one, like, in
yeah,
fairness. And the other things then kind of safeguard it. So I've gotten much better at it
yeah,
because I've had to get good at
yeah.
it.
Well,
You
there's the other story. The other thing, I saw you reminded me. I don't know if you follow. There's an American guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. Have you ever heard of him?
know.
So Gary V is for sure. So he's an American guy who kind of did like various different sort of businesses, and he has his own media. So Vayner Media is the company. Now, if you're offended by sort of bad language, don't follow him because it's like every other word.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah.
So, but he's great stuff for putting out huge amounts of content and lots of different sort of small videos and big stuff. But he does a lot of Q&A with a lot of the people that he goes to does events, and one of the guys business people ask him is, how do I get better at hiring? And he's like, you
Yeah.
don't get better at hiring, you get better at firing.
Yeah, I know. Well, I had to fire someone during the summer. My
And
first time ever.
yeah, and he says it's horrible, it's a horrible thing to do. He's like, but he says no one's good at hiring.
Yeah.
It's because we don't know until you're saying that. The example you gave with the lady, well, actually, she's only okay. She's now an amazing
Oh, she was
teacher.
amazing. And
Yeah.
like, I would have messed up with her. You know, you've just reminded me. I remember when I had Hazel, my first baby. So I had no experience with recruiting, but I had 𝘼𝙙𝙧𝙤𝙘𝙧𝙘𝙀 and Karen, but I had hired this other girl. So I was up all night. So I was there at like, I don't know, 8 in the morning breastfeeding. And I got this text going, my granddad's really sick. I can't make today. It was the first day of class. And I said to her, are you joking? And she was like, no. And I said, so I said nothing else then, got on to 𝘼𝙧𝙧𝙧𝙀, she covered the class, and I rang her the next day because I was too hot-headed like, of what I would say. And I just said to her, look, this isn't going to work out. And she was like, really? And I was like, you've just rang in sick on the first day. Like, you know, I'm there with a newborn baby. Are you kidding me? So you do need to, but that was the very, very first time I ever had to fire, you know.
Yeah, and it's that harshness, I suppose, of reality, but it's that you have when, especially if it's yourself and it's your standard and your level, it means so much. It seems so much to you, and then when you bring it back, but it means so much to the students as well. It's that being willingness to do sometimes the difficult things, like, you know, and but again, it's that I say the same thing. It's like when you're in those situations, it's learning and knowing the next time you might be able to do it, spot it, and that bit quicker, and that
you can kind of tell fairly lively that I think because like I used to let myself very short, or like I'd only look at it just as it was coming up and I needed, and then like it's very hard to make right decisions when you're under pressure. Like you'll get through it, but it's really difficult. So I had to just stop doing that. And like I've been recruiting now, I'd say for about 14 months. So I didn't stop recruit like before I was, so I might have paused the ad, but then I'd open it up again just to see what would come in and then pause it again.
Yes.
Because like you could get 10 CVs, but like sure, you might meet one of them. Like I mean, you'd give anyone a chat on Zoom for 10 minutes, but like, you know, with the qualifications, with being able to speak enough English, with, you know, like with that stuff, like, you know, so it's busy.
I'm sure
You're
it is.
wearing the one hat when you're wearing all the hats.
Very challenging. One of the questions I'd like to ask all my guests, Adrienne, is I do love quotes and phrases. I think they can be quite powerful. So is there a quote or phrase that is important to you?
Well, one that I've been saying for years is life is what happens when you're busy making plans. That's John Lennon. And like that is so true, isn't it? Like life is what happens when you're busy making plans. Like it's something that really just resonated with me years ago. And then the one that's on your page, I have a picture of that hung up in the hall. Be yourself, everyone else is taken.
Okay,
yeah. And
Love
then
it.
when I'm really frightened, I've been saying this like for donkey's years, I can do all the things in Christ which strengthen me. If God is with me, who can be against me? Now, God and Christ can be anything there, but it's just something that I find soothes me. I don't want any bad comments about it.
No.
But it's something that just like if I was going into an interview just with or a situation like that and I felt I was really nervous, that's something that would just totally ground me, because I've said it for like donkey's years at this point, you know.
I love it. No, they're really and I think this is the thing. I think whether there's any sort of any quotation, whether there's any sort of, whether it be religious connotations or not, I think it's and that there can be, obviously quotes are thrown around of everywhere, but it's the application of them. And it's kind of like in that moment, if that quotation, as you say, is able to ground you, make you think clearly and kind of go in with a bit more shoulders back and head up, then I think it's a really empowering thing to be able to call upon. And I just shared that one the other day, the sort of be yourself, everyone else is taken, because, and I was just doing some excuse me, I was looking back over some of the previous episodes I'd done, and I was doing some editing and stuff, and I say it is this theme that comes up, and it's a universal thing that even it kind of ties into what you're saying with the John Lennon quote, as well as like we have to just start living it and being it,
Yeah.
because if you're constantly either searching or planning for it, it'll never happen. Like, there's an
Yeah.
element of where you just have to be who is, but also that being yourself, then that very much embodies what you're trying to do with these young people as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and do you know, like the way you reminded me of all those fabulous memories, like you don't know when you're living those
No.
that they're going to be the best moments that you
Yeah.
will recall. And it kind of feeds into that, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
like life is what happens when you're busy. Like, it really resonates with me. I've said that for donkey's years
Yeah.
as well. And
Yeah.
be yourself, everyone else is taken can kind of like, I have that up on just before I go out the door. And I read it
Yeah.
to keep me grounded.
Yeah. Very good. You mentioned, obviously, I think from the earlier days, the gentleman, was it Pat Burke, you said, from
Yeah,
Impact Theatre. I'm sure he sounds like he was a big influence, obviously, on yourself.
yeah.
Would you say that there are any other people who have been an influence on you?
Yeah, like I have a few now,
Go on.
James. So I would say Finola and Declan Brommel, and Teresa Donovan and all them in Corpus Christi, because they're the ones that first kind of, they were my speech and drama teacher, and like, we entered the slogas, the feshes, and they gave so much
Mm.
to the school. The school was just such a special school, really, again, years ahead of
Yeah.
anything. And like it was a really big event, like going to Sloga, because they'd get buses and like the parents would go up, and sure, this is like years ago,
Yeah.
where it was a big deal to go to Mullingar from Limerick, and
Yeah.
so they were incredible, I have to say. Pat Burke was incredible as well, because he would see potential in somebody,
Yeah.
and he'd take a chance on them. And when other people be like, oh, don't get her, or we need,
Mm.
and like, I don't know if they'd be snobby about theatre or whatever, but he wouldn't care. He'd give you a chat if he saw you were a worker, if he
Yeah.
saw you were enthusiastic. And he gave so much as well to the community. He was really special.
Mm.
And Bernadette Anderson is with the Mercy family, and she runs a parent group um, to support the families. Really, I've been going there for 5 years. Her whole thing is, and Martin, who's the child psychologist, she was the only one that opened during COVID.
Right.
She was like, to hell with this.
Yeah.
Now, not the first lockdown. Do you remember there was a
Yeah.
slot open and then
Yeah.
everything was, she's like, no, my families need support. And she opens it, and she really stood up and fought for what she believed.
Mm.
And the amount of support, like I'm going down there 5 years, and like the support that I get with my own girls, which also feeds into PlayAct, which also makes me more aware to keep on my game, and how a child can show you what's going on for them. So
Mm.
I think her and Martin deserve like an award, because they just give so much. And they started a dream workshop about a year ago that I go to as well, and that's incredible as well. Because the way you have a dream and you look it up, like this is like way deeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love it, but they give so much. And
Yeah.
the other person I love Tina Turner,
Love
because
it.
she never drank, never smoked, never anything. And she's so honest and authentic. Like
Yeah.
she knows who she is. Like, did you see
Yeah.
that clip recently where she says, like, I know like they ask her something, I'm not sure what they ask her. She said, well, I knew I was attractive. She said, I'm not saying I'm beautiful, but like I knew I was attractive and I knew how to use it. But like she was confident enough to be
Yeah.
like, to be able to say it. Like she stays really grounded, which I always try to work at, staying grounded and not
Mm.
trying to be in a group, or group thinking. And so I
Yeah.
really like her for that. Like,
Yeah.
and just before I came on the interview with you, there was a write-up about Sarah Jessica Parker, and she's aging gracefully,
Yeah.
which is really hard to do in her position.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, hat off to her, like, to do that, because
Mm.
so much is on their looks, especially like because
Yeah.
she's, you know, Hollywood or whatever. So I
Yeah.
really admire her for that.
Yeah. Oh, they're fabulous.
I could probably have 2 pages.
I know. Yeah, no.
You're
But
lucky I'm only giving you a small
yes,
few.
you. I know, but no, but that's why again I'm so interested in and here to hear people because I love it. It's and that's why I think where true influence versus the sort of
Yeah,
more modern day term of influencer, you know,
yeah,
true influence is the sort of that sort of magpieing of what you see in other people and go, actually, you know, no, that's the whether it be the tenacity, the honesty, the sort of
yeah,
for the personality types. It's the whole thing of we see in others what we really want to see in ourselves. And
yeah,
it's and sometimes it's like, well, I want to be that bit more confident, or I would love to be a bit more
yeah,
grounded, or I don't see it I can't see it in me. But when you see someone else that you look up to doing it, go, there's
yeah,
the behavior. If they can do it,
yeah,
maybe I can bring that more into myself.
yeah,
It's not the copycat. That's
no,
it's not like how do I take what they're doing and bring it into me, and that's why I
yeah,
think it's really a love thing. And then but what I love, the reason I like to ask that question towards the end of the conversation, because it mirrors everything we've just talked about. All of those
yeah,
influences that you've shared are completely demonstrating what you're trying to do with these
yeah.
people and what you've built up in there. So it's fabulous. No, they're brilliant influences. I love that. um Before I ask the final question, I want to make sure that obviously people continue to find about you and support you. We'll make sure everything that is in our show notes. But if you would like to give a shout out to where people can find you and your school online, give it a shout out now.
Oh yeah, oh thank you. It's PlayAct Drama School and we're on Facebook and Instagram. And so our they can look up online as well, playact.ie. And we'd love to hear from you.
Brilliant stuff. As I say, all those links will be in the show notes, so make sure you check out Play Act Drama and on Facebook, Instagram, and the website. So the last question I have for you, Adrienne, is what's important for your future?
Ooh. For my future. I really want to stay grounded, you know, like, and, you know, stay true to my own values.
Mhm.
Because there is a lot of noise, you know, and we all kind of, in a way, want to fit in some way, and it can be easy to be kind of swept up. So I suppose for the moment I'm kind of focusing on staying grounded, staying true to my values, you know, like, and you know, like being kind is like really important to me as well, you know. And I think when, you know, when you're not grounded or centered in yourself, you start doubting your own kind of, you know, am I too kind? You know, are my kids
Ye-
too kind? But there's
Yeah,
no such thing really, like, is there? You
yeah,
know, you can't be too kind. So yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I would like a bit more balance as well in my life, because I don't seem to be doing that very well. But I think if I'm grounded, all of that other stuff will balance out, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. As I say, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Adrienne, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Oh, thanks, James, for having me. And I will see you soon
Yeah,
on one of your channels.
no worries. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sloan.